Everyone has a story, and so does everything. Antique, vintage, or a curio.
In excess of $10,000. The lens weight is like 35 pounds.
But we've had collections that have sold for tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Technological innovations, cultural significance, and personal memories. What is it that gives each of these unique items their timeless quality?
You can't find these anywhere.
No. Join us as we blow off the dust and breathe new life into the past and the curious.
I like that.
Today on The Past and the Curious, we look at an early baseball from when America's pastime was in its infancy, antique examples of artificial lighting, and a tin toy car manufactured in post-war Germany. Jay looks at a Thunderbird tin toy car.
At that time, which would have been the 50s, toys were to be played with. There wouldn't be much of a conception of keeping them as something to be collected at all.
Garth examines antique lanterns once used to illuminate train cars.
These ones are not the average type of railway lantern that a lot of people see. They often are referred to as a caboose lamp.
Bruce gets his hands on a 19th century leather belt ball.
I thought it was a dog ball or just a toy at first, until I got home and started looking at it, and maybe there's something to this. I'm Steve Murphy, and I brought in an old belt ball, flash baseball, which is a ball made from an old belt. I've done a lot of research in the past on my own trying to figure this out, and it's a mystery.
The construction of modern-day baseballs has undergone little change over the last 50 years, but there was a period when they looked and felt very different. Throughout the late 19th century, baseballs were made primarily by local retailers of the players themselves. Known as belt balls or lemon peels, early styles were smaller, lighter, softer, and wrapped in brown leather, but the composition posed multiple issues for competitive play, and the need to standardize America's pastime became clear. In 1858, baseballs started being mass-produced according to size and weight specifications and incorporated one game-changing innovation, figure-8 stitching. By the time Canada entered the major leagues with the Montreal Expos in 1969, baseballs were only a few tweaks away from their current form, but thankfully, a far cry from their crude beginnings.
Steve, good to see you. Inside this very old baseball glove, there is a spherical object. What is that?
Well, to my knowledge, it's an old belt ball. Almost a baseball, but not quite.
What does belt ball mean exactly?
As far as I can find out, it's from when people made homemade balls out of their belts, sewing them together, stuffed them full of stuffing, and started throwing it as a ball.
That's before the baseball. It's probably a couple of leather belts that were stitched together to make something.
That's the way I assume, yeah.
Where did you find this?
An old abandoned house. I was getting wood from a farmer, and I seen the old house up on the hill, so naturally I asked if there's any antiques up there he might want to get rid of. And he said no at first, but then he said, yeah, well, let me take a look around. And as we went in, it was a mess in there. You can tell there's been vandals in there before and thieves going through. And so I just started collecting some items, and the ball was one of the items, along with a pair of old hockey skates dated from the 1870s. And I just made an offer on the whole box and took it home.
What did you think that was?
I thought it was a dog ball or just a toy at first, until I got home and started looking at it, and maybe there's something to this. So Bruce, what do you think this is?
It's tough to say. It is a ball for sure. I know it came before 1870, because that's when baseballs as we know them today were manufactured and pretty much stayed the same for more than a century. I think you're onto something. That's how they used to play baseball, with spheres like this.
Yeah.
Just take a look at this here. I think it's about 4 inches probably in circumference. A regular baseball is about 9, so it is small. Do you have any idea what the Palmer's word means on
No, that's the mystery.
You know what? There was a shoe manufacturer years ago out of New Brunswick called Palmer's. And you wonder if they're dealing with leather in the shoe. Perhaps they took a step and made a ball. So I guess you could envision someone 150 years ago going to Palmer's and saying, I want to play some baseball. And they found a way to create this sort of 2 leather belts and some stitches. You never know. And at the time, this is what they used. So perhaps this was the origin item for baseball that was played not only in Canada and the Maritimes, but even in the eastern part of the U.S. This was from a time where the newspaper accounts are sketchy. There's not a lot of photos, certainly no TV or film reel. But you can imagine people playing baseball with this. Tough to field a grounder because it's not perfectly round, but that would give you a game, I think, don't you?
Sure, it would look
Yeah.
like a lot of fun. So Bruce, do you see a lot of this stuff in your line of work?
No, I don't. This is actually the first official antique belt ball I've ever seen.
Oh, great.
This is really, really rare, and I think that goes back before 1870, probably even before 1860. The ball we now accept as the standard baseball was formed around 1870 or so. I've read that this is a relative of what was called the lemon peel ball. What was the lemon peel ball based on the research you've done?
Research I've done, the lemon peel ball is made of 4 pieces of leather stitched together as opposed to 2.
Would lemon peel have come before or after this, do you think?
I think the lemon ball be after. This would be before.
So this goes way back.
I think so.
So we don't know a lot about baseball from 1850 to 1870. And also, when the newspapers wrote about games back in those days, they talked about the players and the score and the teams, but rarely about the bats and the balls. So unfortunately, here it is, and it remains a little bit of a mystery.
Yeah.
So Steve, the baseball, as we know, it's been around for more than 150 years, right? We're talking 5 ounces, 9-inch circumference, and 108 stitches. And the 2 baseballs with which I'm most familiar, the brands at least, you had Spalding that came on in 1876. And for 99 years, they were the ball of Major League Baseball. And then Rawlings took over in 1977. Is it possible that we're looking at one of the oldest baseballs in the world?
I had this to the British Antique Roadshow before, and the owner of the roadshow, he said it was the oldest piece of baseball memorabilia he's ever seen, and it should be put in a museum or a high-end collector's personal collection. He thinks it's something really special.
Maybe the oldest baseball in existence, according to him.
Yes.
You know what's fun? There's mystery in this. There's a chance that is one of the oldest baseballs in existence on this planet. If that doesn't get your blood pumping, I don't know what does. So we're not sure. We know it came from the early 1800s, but are there any others of these in existence? If there are, I haven't seen them. So Steve, a pretty cool piece of baseball history here. And to be honest, I have no idea what this is worth. Well, what has your research shown you?
Some collectors offer me between $700 and $900.
You didn't take it?
No.
No. What are your plans with this?
Well, this will probably just go back up on my shelf, unless there's a outstanding offer that I can't refuse.
Any idea what you'd sell it for at this point?
$1 million.
You'd move it for that, would you?
Sure I would.
Yeah. Interesting, because you asked what it might be worth. If Palmer's produced 5,000 of these, it's probably worth $5-10. But if that is actually, and it might be, the oldest baseball in history, you might get your million.
Whew, now that would be life-changing.
You'd take that one?
I sure would.
Steve, a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for bringing in the antique belt ball, a very cool little piece of baseball history.
Thanks, Bruce, for all the information and the great help. As far as I'm concerned, the mystery's still not solved. It could go back a lot further than we think.
We don't have film of this ball or photos of this ball or first-hand accounts of this ball in use, so your mind gets to wander. I think that's why it's significant. You can actually see this being used in a baseball game 170 years ago.
After the break on The Past and the Curious.